when you're going through stuff, you don't really, I mean, I felt the pain, I felt the joy, I felt not enough gratitude. So that was one of the super positives coming out of this. But I discovered my story as I wrote it. I didn't go, I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna talk about this, I didn't, first of all, I said no forever. I'm not a writer, the idea of writing a book was just way overwhelming to me, and it just wasn't anything that I ever wanted to do. Then, you know, I became a father at 55, and then Bob died. I kept saying no, and then I remember my mother's letters, and she wrote all these beautiful little notes to me over the years, and my sisters, and so I put them all together. I said, okay, I think I know how to start it. If I don't get it, I'll give your money back, and let's, you know, move on. So I wrote the first chapter about this, my worst day of my life, when I got in my car and I was not sober and I could have killed somebody terrible, and I got a DUI and I had to straighten up. But even after that happened, I went home to my house and I drank another bottle of wine.
John Stamos sharing details behind his new memoir, If You Would Have Told Me, out now, where he makes shocking confessions.
Honestly, I hit it well. And I wasn't ever so sloppy that I couldn't get through something. I thought that it made me funnier. I thought it made me more charming. I thought it made me, be able to climb out of my whatever. Like for Cabaret, it was a very liberating, very loose, sexualized show. And it was a little difficult to get there for me, especially people were coming in thinking they were gonna see Uncle Jesse. And when I went to rehab and I straightened out, people were like, you had a drinking problem? I mean, some didn't. Some of them was like, okay, time to go. So my 5 stages of grief there were, sex, drugs, more of the bad stuff. And then I thought, what's the next hardest thing? So I wrote the chapter on Saget, and thank God, my 5 stages of grief there was therapy and health and, meditation and family. And I just had to figure out how to get through it.
It's hard for me to talk about it. Talking about it, that's what helps me. Talking about the memories.
Tomorrow's never promised, right? And it sounds like a dumb cliche, but man, you never think it's gonna be the last time you see somebody, you never think it's gonna be the last picture, but he was everything that I wanted Bob to be, and I think I was to him. I got a call, from my press agent a few weeks before and said, well, we heard that I went down in a plane crash. And I said, wow. I said, how were they? Well, sources say. I go, they gotta get some new sources. A couple weeks later, I got the same call, and I said, what's up? I said, have you talked to Bob? He might have died. I said, well, their sources weren't so great last week, I think. But sadly, it was true. It was a defining, terrible moment that, I could still picture right now. I remember I was with my son, he was asleep, and I got out of the car, and my knees hit the asphalt, in this parking lot. Candace calls me, or texts me, and she says, hey, I got this weird DM from a girl. And she said that Bob died. I'm like, oh, no, because now it was all starting. I called her right away. I said, what are you talking about? I said, well, there's a girl on the scene. She said her sister's a police officer in Orlando, and Candace said, you better not be, making this up. And she said, no, I'll show you the police report. So that's when, and then that other phone was clicking, and it was Kelly, and she was crying, and then that was it. So we had that last dinner, and it's about that. But we had stuff to do after and thing. And but we slowed down. We thank God, Bob or maybe the girls said, let's have some dessert. And we're like, okay, let's have some coffee. Yeah. Bob had a joke. It's pretty dirty, but he says tonight's special is a cake and we're out of cake. So we were doing that joke. It was all. I said, well, let's just slow down, guys. Let's stay. You're right. Let's stay and let's have the cake tonight. And that was it.
Hey, look alive! Uncle Jesse's here! Uncle Jesse! All right, hello!
If you would have told me back then that the show was going to be a smash hit and be on for 30 years, it probably would have scared the hell out of me, I'd be like, oh my God. We're not meant to know the future. We're not meant to, because life is full of unexpected moments. And if we're not open to them, if we're not, willing to be hit with the bad stuff too, So there's a lot of movies and TV shows that talk about going back in time travel. And, and would I have done it different? And ultimately, the protagonist is always saying, no, I wouldn't. Before I wrote that book, I would say I have a lot of regrets. After writing it, I realized everything happened for a reason, and I wouldn't change one bit.
Jess, I just wanted everything to be perfect. The tuxedos don't fit. Michelle's upset because Howie's a boy. You and my dad hate each other.
sweetheart. I admit it wasn't love at first sight, but you weren't crazy about me the first time we met. Guess it just runs in your family.
And Lori Loughlin. She's just turned out to be one of my best friends. And, you know, the editors were saying, you got to talk about this, you got to talk about that, you got to talk about Lori. I said, no, I don't. And then I talked to her about it, and she said, write whatever you want. So I started this stuff, and it didn't feel right. I pulled it out. And like a couple of other moments, when I was doing the reading of the book, I said, something's missing here. How do I talk about it? And I went back to the day that it broke, the news broke, and I called her in Canada. I said, you okay? She said, yeah, why? You know, this college scandal thing. What do you thought? Oh, yeah, there was a few emails, Massimo. And then I hear a click on the phone. I go, do you hear that click? She goes, oh, yeah, I think they're bugging my phone. I said, bah! So then I turn on the news, and I say, you watching the news? She says, no. I said, there's a press conference on about you guys. She goes, what channel? I have it on my text. All caps. Every channel. And it was like that. But what I ended up writing about was watching her go through this with such, you know, everybody makes mistakes. Big, small, I'm not judging that. It's how you are accountable for your mistakes and what you do about it. She did everything that she was told to do. She went to prison. If you look, if you're going to say who's going to end up in prison first at a Full House, it wouldn't have been Lori Loughlin. But the way she handled it, the way she kept her family together, the love that and it was touch and go. I mean, can you imagine? And she'd wake up every day and see all this terrible stuff said about her daughters, and for whatever reason, she got through it, and I'm proud of her.
From TV love to real life love, John spills about his almost romance with Heather Locklear.
Oh, Heather Locklear. Well, she was. I was at a car show. I was a young, I was 18, or I don't know if I was. I think I was just from General Hospital. She was the biggest star on television. Beautiful, and I could see her across the hall. Over all the cars and the high hair, and Heather Locklear. So, she was the quintessential, all-American girl. And we were supposed to meet up, and I was nervous, and I got a little drunk, and then she came and said, let's play quarters, and she was great, and I was not, and let's meet up later, and I never made it. I just threw up all over my room, and then it was too late, and it was bad. But I still didn't get it. And here's the thing, hopefully people will read this book and go, I'm gonna avoid that. I'm not gonna do that. Stamos did that. But also, I want people to go, wow, he's a human. I'm sure people will be surprised to read a lot of it. And I didn't put, I could have put a lot more crazy stuff in there. I just sort of, no second book. I just sort of kept it to, moments that I could really dig into. Yeah. Some of them were painful, some, like beautiful. Nobody ever gives a heads up to me when they talk about me, and usually it's on TV shows or movies, and usually it's pretty nice. I really tried not to take anybody out, and I feel that I, for the most part, didn't. It would look like I'm saying something bad about my ex-wife or Tony Danza or whatever it is, but if you read on, the truth is there was always a reason for it. I don't want to take anybody out. I don't like celebrities bashing other celebrities. It's just, there's enough bad stuff going on in this world. And so the point of talking about some of this stuff was to show me learning from it, and the redemption, and and the ending, which usually was I was the bad guy. Howard Stern listened to it, and he called and left this beautiful message. And in it, he said, "You really didn't take anybody out but yourself." He said, "That's a sign of maturity and intelligence." I said, "Oh, thank you, Howard."